I wasn't sure if or ski park, black ski park.
Really extreme, like, this must be nice.
Call the Ways and Means meeting of March 20, 2012 to order, please. Roll call.
Commissioner Cross.
Here.
Commissioner Derazinski.
Excused.
Commissioner Engel.
Here.
Commissioner Jagger.
Here.
Commissioner Longmire.
Present.
Commissioner Mahoney.
Here.
Commissioner Plummer.
Here.
Commissioner Skolnick.
Here.
Commissioner Snyder.
Here.
Commissioner Wilkins. Here. Commissioner Collins.
Here. Thank you. The approval of minutes of March 1st, 2012. Second. This moved and seconded. Any corrections or additions? See none, all in favor? Aye. All opposed? Motion carries. Public comment on an agenda item. If there's anybody in the audience who'd like to address the board today, could you please come to the podium and state your name? Seeing none, we'll move on to items for consideration with addendum items 38 and 39. First item for consideration is WM 1203-29, approve the accounts payable.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Questions? All in favor say yes.
Yes.
All in favor say no. That motion carries. WM 12/03-30 from administration. Authorize the county board chairman to sign into a local agreement for the West Michigan Economic Development Partnership.
So moved. Second.
That's been moved and seconded. Comments? Mr. Plummer?
I'm just curious on this. Does every entity in this get one vote?
Judy's Cal Grant Coordinator, I would ask if you could suspend the rules to allow Mr. Garner and Mr. Chaplin.
Then moved and seconded to suspend the rules. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Garner?
Ed Garner, Muskegon first. Rick Chaplin, right place. To answer your question, yes, each entity that joins to this agreement gets one vote. So in that case, the county would get a vote, and each of our local municipalities that join into this would get a vote. And that would be the same for Kent County.
My question is okay, if there's a group of us in there, and because once the group's formed, I understand that they can go out and borrow money and everything else. And if the majority votes for something and one, this county says no or what have you, it would put us on the hook for whatever debt was incurred.
Yeah, this group, I know it's in the legislation that they can borrow debt. Really, I don't think that the intent of this group is not to do that, but I know we can.
If you read the whole thing, it's in there. That's what caught my eye. I'm just curious.
That's one of the issues that come up in the Kent County sessions, Mr. Chapman.
Commissioners, yeah, it's a similar question that came up this morning with the Kent County Board of Commissioners as well. There was a finance committee meeting this morning, and the legislation and the enabling legislation authorizes the authority, once it's appointed and operating, to basically be able to create a budget, borrow money. The way this interlocal agreement reads is we're basically not going to do that. We've set it up such that a budget that would be established by the authority, and frankly any use of any incentives, including that which may be associated with a repayment of bonding, has to come back to the collective membership for approval. So we think we've gone way beyond what the legislation calls for to make it an inclusive sort of process that is subject to approval by the local units of government themselves, not just the authority.
I was hoping it would be that way, but I used to serve on Joint Planning Commission, and they had different acts that we could adopt that held us, or so that we couldn't borrow money.
Right.
And I forget which public act that was, and I didn't know if that would fall under something like this. So we, the public act that you're reading here, we can borrow, the group can borrow money, and it could hold everybody, accountable for it. And that's my only downfall to it. I can see where it would be, say, Muskegon on the county to pay off a lot of money, on the hook, pay off a lot of money. So that's my question. I just don't quite think that's such a good idea. I'm just one vote.
Mr. Wilkins.
Yes. How many municipalities and townships are involved in this at this point?
In Muskegon, the two local communities that's looking at this right now is the City of Muskegon and Muskegon Township, I come to their board last night, in Kent County, which entities in Kent County?
At a minimum, Commissioner, we're expecting Kent County, Grand Rapids, and/or Wyoming. I'm making a presentation to Kentwood at a work session. The city of Kentwood may join. Cascade Township may also participate. I think that's it.
So that would be 8 total, if the 3 that I mentioned here, and then 5 rate that we just talked about. There could be others after the entity is formed. It does allow for other entities to join as well.
Okay, and at this point, there are no dues at inception, but later on, you anticipate.
Yeah, what will happen is once the board gets seated, they need to determine a budget. At a minimum, there's going to be a cost legal cost to get the corporation established, and some administrative costs to operate it. Over and beyond that, the seating board needs to determine really how aggressive they want to get with this thing. They want to create separate brochure pieces for each properties or going to life and some other things. It's really up to that seating board, and that's why we didn't really put a budget in there. I know several communities may be looking at asking property owners that may the properties included in here to help cover the field area. That would be left up to the executive seat. No budget at inception. That is correct.
I'd point out too, I'm sorry, that the as the discussion has commenced over the last 12 months or so amongst a variety of staff people, the same issue has come up, and I think we're certainly cognizant of the fiscal constraints of the different units of government that may participate, and thus our intent, frankly, is to go and look for other non-governmental sources of funding, such as that may be associated with foundations, such as that may be associated with the properties, the property owners of properties that would be included and subject to the marketing efforts, as well as the state of Michigan. I'll remind all of you and perhaps members of the audience as well that this governor in particular has said he will incentivize and reward regional collaborative efforts that are of an intergovernmental nature. I think we intend to pursue that avenue as well for potential operating assistance, as well as the marketing efforts that Evan was talking about. So I think it's fair to say that, as a last resort, it would be to come back to the respective member units of government that would be participating for funding assistance.
Mr. Longer.
I'm going to go back to when I first heard about this program and still ask. Mr. Chopper read off, gave 5 municipalities in King County. We have 1, potentially 2 here. Only 1 vote they still have a majority vote. Is that right?
That if each one gets one vote, but what we put in.
From King County and stuff.
Yeah, well, you're absolutely right. Each one would have one vote, so we'd be talking 8 votes. If all these came in, the 8 votes, 5 in King County, 3 in here, and there would be a majority vote rule. However, that's where the interlocal agreement comes into play because nobody wanted the local control superseded. So we put 2 caveats in there. Number one, you can pull out at any time. But first and foremost, the local community has to agree to whatever. If they want to apply an incentive, a particular tax capture or tax relief or something, the local community has agreed that. They say, we don't want to do that, this is done deal, we can't do it. So we put some restrictions in the interlocal agreement because the legislation didn't have it in there. We came up with this interlocal agreement, which has been through the attorneys about 7 or 6 times to clarify that, to make sure we did not supersede either local control or county control. As a caveat, if also if the county winds up pulling out, saying that we no longer want to be a part of this agreement, that will basically also knock all the rest of the local municipalities out in our particular county. So all the authorities of this agreement could not be used for any other community if the county says we do not want to participate in this.
It's just my fear that somehow King County would have more of a say-so in the end than we do when it comes to this land. We'll start seeing more development, and we'll get pushed to the backside. You know what I'm saying? That's my fear. It looks good on paper, but when it starts to come out,
Yeah, I think this was designed so that no one community could force anything on another community. That was a big, both King County and the others. Some deals in King County, maybe there's a split vote there. Our 3 votes were carried away on the deals in King County. They had the same fear. No one wants to be controlled given up. And no one wants to be dictated to what they have to give and what they don't have to give. And so we made it clear in the agreement that you cannot do that unless you got local authority, local agreement. That's what they want to do. I don't think they kind of push anything on the speaker that we don't.
Are you working on any other municipalities here in Muskegon area?
Well, right now, the reason those 2 are included because the properties that's included in this, going in this agreement, they got a minimum criteria of at least being 35 acres or more, and at least have to have 2 modes of transportation on them, and at least within a mile of a major highway. So certain areas they don't have the minimum criteria for properties in that area. Say for instance, the wastewater site property out there, because it doesn't have rail or water, anything like it would not qualify to go into this particular corporation because it doesn't have 2 months.
Mr. Snyder.
Thank you.
I think this is a great thing. I think it's very important that we try to see what we can do to cooperate on the development. I also think that because this is a finite term, terminate at the end of 5 years unless it's extended, there is the ability to withdraw. In addition, there is no ability to tax. The ordinary authority has the ability to tax and raise funds completely separate and distinct from any of the members. That's not contained in this particular agreement. It's just the opposite. And I happen to think that with what's been going on in the West Michigan Strategic Alliance over the last 15 to 20 years, that this is just exactly what a lot of these people have had in mind for a long period of time. And I would suspect it would probably get some people out of Allegan County to join in this. And if it hasn't been, I'm sure you're making the effort to try to get some people in Allegan County to join in this as well. I think it's a great thing.
Mr. Connor.
So, and I'm listening, John, because I'm an attorney, that he has to be. But no, if we agree to this under this public act, under that public act, and I'm going back to what I think I learned before on the County Planning Commission, they wouldn't allow you to alter that public act to form the organization. Can you put all these caveats in there and still be a legitimate authority under that public act?
Yeah, the way the act actually reads is that in order to apply to the state for this strategic fund for one of these next Michigan development corporations, it says it has to be an interlocal agreement between one or more communities, which is at a minimum, in our case, would require the county and in each community and at least one for a city. In our case, would be the city of Muskegon. So at a minimum, to even create this thing, we need 2 entities, and it specifically says it has to be an interlocal agreement between these entities in order for you to even apply for the next Michigan.
Mr. Ringo.
Yeah, I think this is a big step forward. We're finding ourselves more and more looking at regional concepts. And I think this opens the door to just expand our vision and our cooperation, quite frankly. It's a necessary thing.
Commissioners, I'll give you a real good example of what we think is representative of why we're standing in front of you today. Our 2 organizations working together, I mean, it is I think, historic. I think the fact that we're presenting to both county boards an approach to regional economic development is different and historic. My boss, Birgit Close, right now is in Germany with the governor. And they're marketing potential properties that could be subject to this act. We think that our resources together are simply, and I'm talking human resources as much as probably financial resources of the right place, or frankly, are more substantial than that of Muskegon Area First. It doesn't mean we're not going to work together, but I think there are advantages under this particular type of act, along with the checks and balances that we put into the act that assure local control, that will assure equality. And if the equality is felt that it's not there, anybody feels that they're not getting a fair deal out of it, they can withdraw without penalty. I think it'd be unfortunate, and we hope we never get to that point, and we don't expect that. We think that the historic context in which we're putting this, and the uniqueness of an intergovernmental relationship, along with the assets, frankly, that Muskegon County has, that Kent County doesn't have. You have property and assets that we can't compare with, especially water. Kind of simple.
The 5-year limit too that Commissioner Schneider referenced was something that Rick and I kind of kicked around. We didn't want this thing to exist for 15, 20 years. And when we put a time limit on it, the goal is really to see can we get some enhanced activity and some traction on certain properties that we got here that are logistics sensitive and use these 2 modes of transportation. So the 5-year limit was there because it said, hey, that put some pressures on us to see what we really can get out of this. The state has also said it will commit to marketing these properties in a more aggressive way than they do traditional properties. They'll have these kind of in their back pocket, knowing that they can use these properties for deals. So we think at a minimum we'll get an extra marketing push out of this thing. There's only 5 of these going to be created, which we said back in October, and since that time, 4 of them already kind of got approval. One in the Detroit area, one in the Traverse City area, one in the Lansing area, and one in the what's called I-69 corner area there. So there's only the 1 left down that we're trying to get at. After that, we won't even have an opportunity. If it goes away, we won't have an opportunity to apply. So we're trying to get this established to see where it goes. It relies for a measure of trust between communities to some degree. It says something, but we tried to put as many limitations as we could on there and limit the amount of years that this thing exists.
You have a question, John?
I don't have a question. Everybody's making the observation today that the next oil is water, and this gives a lot of people access to water, and we are the only deep water port. It just makes an awful lot of sense for us to get involved in this, and you can add to it at any point in time with other entities up and down the shore. This is a tremendous opportunity for Muskegon economic development, as I see it.
Mr. Mahoney?
My initial concerns have been pretty much allayed with the caveats that you put in, to make sure that we have some control, make sure that we're not being used by this authority. And I agree with Commissioner Snyder, it's an excellent opportunity to promote this area.
Any other questions? Thank you, gentlemen. All in favor of the motion, say yes.
Yes.
All opposed to the motion, say no. 1 no. Motion carries. WM 12/3-31 from administration. Award the lead risk assessment and clearance inspections to Midwest Environmental Services as a primary contractor. The secondary contract is awarded a contract in the event the MES is not available to perform the work, and authorize the county board chairman to sign.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Questions? All in favor say yes.
Yes.
All opposed say no. Motion carries. WM 12/3-32 from Human Resources. Request that Muskegon County issue a request for proposals for new building facilities for Michigan Works in Muskegon, Montana.
So moved.
Second. That's moved and seconded. Mr. Jaeger.
First, I think the motion, if you read the top, they're going to use the existing facilities. So when you go to the motion only states they're going to use new buildings. So the motion should be changed to new or existing buildings.
Debbie Gurnabel, Human Resources Director. Yes, probably it should have said new facility is what we were, not necessarily new building, but facility.
Yeah.
New or used. It could be existing or it could be new.
Yeah, I should say existing facility. I don't know if we can change that, but something there I would change to encourage that. That's a friendly amendment.
That's correct. Excuse me, Stu. Jeff, if you want to make a motion to amend this motion, we could do that. I agree with you.
I'd like to make a motion that we change that to existing facilities, new buildings and existing facilities.
I'll second it.
Motion been made to amend the motion and then seconded. Questions? You had another question, Mr. Jaeger?
Yes, could we use a college or something else, or the training center that we have out there? When it's a building like that too, or a facility to run this program instead of Orchard View, which we have now.
I don't think the college would have the space for us because we're in Orchard View Schools, we're in Goodwill on Norton, and we're also up in White Lake. And we've outgrown all those facilities.
All in favor of the amended motion?
Aye.
All opposed? Getting back to the original motion? That passes?
Yes.
As read?
Yes, as amended.
That motion passes as amended. Is that correct?
It passes. Now you can vote on the motion.
Okay, the amendment is passed. Let's vote on the motion as it's amended. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. WM 12/3-33.
Sorry.
Moved and seconded. Questions? All in favor say yes.
Yes.
Opposed say no. That motion carries. WM 12/3-34 from the prosecutor.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Questions? Mr. Plummer?
Just curious on this, what's going to happen with the sheriff? He's going to use who to fill in?
My understanding is that there'll be a motion before courts of public safety in reference to the sheriff. Overall, if we put the two together, and I'm not sure if they have it totally hammered out. I know he's been working with the finance department. so I'm not sure exactly how it's going to go, but he'll merely be replacing that particular position in his office. So there's no new creation of a position. There will be the same number of county employees as a result of these consolidations.
Anybody else?
I just have a question. The new position is going to be 60% crime victims. The new person will spend 60% of, you're planning on them spending 60% of their time on that.
Correct. I've already spoken with the state, advised them of the combined position, and they have given tentative approval to it.
Okay, I mean, I don't know, I'm not exactly sure what that person does, but I mean, is that 60% enough?
I believe so. In analyzing it, I mean, we combined the position before, and I think it's what I've learned, if you're going to combine, you're probably better off in your own department because you have more flexibility as to assignments on any particular day.
Okay. And then the crime victims grant that you've received, will you have to give some of that back?
No, it'll be, they said that the amount that we received on the grant will remain the same. We can utilize those funds however we see fit in our county.
And that grant, is that something that's been going on for years?
As long as I've been in office, so 24 years.
Anybody else? Thank you. Heard the motion. All in favor say yes.
Yes.
All against say no. Motion carries. WM 12/3-35 from the prosecutor. Authorize the prosecutor to apply for the fiscal year 2013 Victims of Crime Act government grant.
Second.
Has been moved and seconded. Questions?
Yes, Mr. Chair, the amendment that we just voted on in the previous motion, will that incorporate now into the new grant? Is that what you're adjusting?
Actually, this particular grant has to do with the funding of a particular position within the victim witness unit, so it's kind of unrelated, but in terms of the grant that will fund the other position, we have about 3 separate grants in our victim unit funding different positions within it. So this happens to be a distinct grant from that, but we will be submitting an amendment to the grant which gives us the majority of funds for that. This bulk grant that we're voting on today just funds one particular position.
Anybody else? All in favor? Motion say yes.
Yes.
All opposed say no. Motion carries. WM 12/3-36 of Public Works, award bid for Pioneer Park Lodge roof.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Questions? All in favor say yes.
Yes.
All opposed say no. Motion carries. WM 12/3-37 from the sheriff. Accept the State of Michigan Hazardous Material Emergency Preparedness Planning Program Grant Agreement between the State of Michigan and the County of Muskegon.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Questions? All in favor say yes.
Yes.
All opposed say no. Motion carries. WM 12/3-38 from administration. Authorize the board chair to sign resolution designating capital fund services to manage and administer the revolving loan fund as a regional fund manager.
Support.
Moved and supported. Mr. Jagger.
Do we have to join this region? Is it like mandated?
Judy Kell, grant coordinator. The regions were established by the Michigan Economic Development Commission, so yes, we're part of it.
Now, who's going to pay for the regional fund manager?
If we could suspend the rules, we have 2 guests from the Capital Services Fund from Lansing here, Mr. Ballard and Mr. Jacobs.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Questions? All in favor of suspending the rules?
Yes.
All opposed? Thank you.
Hello, my name is Jacob Horner. I work for an organization called Great Lakes Capital Fund. Capital Fund Services is a wholly owned subsidiary of ours. To answer your question, the revolving loan fund manager is entirely, all of our staff and expenses would be paid for out of the program income, and none of it would be paid for by the county or any units of local government within the county, or the region, I should say.
Yeah, the 71,000 is still in there. Is it, well, this will just make it easier for you to find a community to use it, or how does that work? Because I guess that makes sense.
Sure. The current dollars that are in the fund are now being regionalized by MEDC, and so MEDC is essentially, and just so you know, this is not something that we put together. This is an effort put forward by MEDC. We are simply applying to be the regional fund manager, but MEDC has made a public policy decision to regionalize these CDBG dollars, and then we are an organization that's applying to administer those funds, and so we will be essentially taking those funds as well as additional CDBG dollars from MEDC to do CDBG compliant loans within the entire region, including Muskegon County.
So is this region pretty big?
It's 12 counties. My name is Rick Ballard, and I'm working with Capital Funds on this project, formerly with Michigan. And yes, it's 12 counties, not counting King County. So it would be the 12 counties in West Central Michigan.
Well, it'd be pretty easy for them to eat the 71,000 probably, but we're not using it.
Well, it's the idea is that with $71,000, we really don't have a regional program. So the idea is that one of the things we will be doing is looking to for new projects in Muskegon County and throughout the region to attract more dollars in, and to use the CDBG dollars to leverage other kinds of lending from the private sector and so on. So this will build over time. It's the 71,000 has been there for a number of years, and the idea here is to get this to grow and make it a regional resource.
And MEDC has indicated that in their consolidated plan, CDBG plan, they have additional dollars set aside that as long as we're bringing them CDBG compliant deals, they have funds available to do those deals. So in addition to the 71,000, as Rick said, there's additional dollars that will be out there. The other thing that this program will do is eventually once the funds are deployed by us and paid back, they become defederalized, which eliminates a significant amount of the federal regulations surrounding the program. Currently, if the funds are paid back to the county still has to comply with all of the federal regulations, whereas if the money recycles through the revolving loan fund, you're free from those federal requirements, which allows you to do a lot more with the funds.
Okay, and then in general, then there ain't going to be more coming out of our budget to run this.
No, absolutely not.
We're taking on some level of risk that if we're not able to generate enough revenue from the program, the capital fund still has to administer the loan fund and pay expenses. So it's a risk that we're taking on, that risk, as well as the compliance risk if any of the loans are fall out of HUD compliance.
I had a guy ask me, did the MEDC get any more bid proposals? Like you guys were the only bid that actually inquired to us. Was anybody else inquired to the federal government, or you don't know?
There's other groups that are applying in other regions. Nobody's, to our knowledge, has applied for Region 4, which is this region, but we know, for example, up in the UP, Dennis West's group, Northern Initiatives, is going to be their loan fund administrator in Saginaw County, the Saginaw area. There's been a group set up there to manage their funds. So there are other funds within the state, but we're not really looking to compete with any of them. So we've strategically selected a few regions that are not currently, where we wouldn't be competing with those folks, where we could be collaborating instead.
Just going to.
You know, this whole program is one that kind of baffles me, because it seems like nobody ever paid the money back. You know, I mean, most of the loans went bad just because the way that in order to qualify for the loan, you had to have been rejected by almost the banks and any normal sources of capital. So, I mean, are you going to do something different
Yes, we certainly would do something different. If you,
It's like this money, I don't know what they were thinking when they wrote this
well,
law.
if you look at the reuse plan from MEDC, it does require a lot more. It does include a lot more flexibility for the use of these funds. The main thing that we're looking at is potentially using the funds as a guarantee source, so that we're partnering with a local bank and we're saying, if you have a deal that's where they can meet these CDBG requirements, we could guarantee a portion of your loan, and that way it allows the local banker to do more volume. It builds a partnership with them, and it allows us to spread the dollars further, because it's not a one-to-one proposition where we could have a loan fund of, say, $100,000 and then be able to provide guarantees in excess of that amount. So you're essentially leveraging those dollars, stretching them farther than you normally would, which is allowed under the MEDC reuse plan. So, we're a community development financial institution. We've been around for 19 years. We've done a lot of investment throughout the state, and we do a lot of structured finance that utilizes these various government dollars that have a lot of requirements on them. So, we're fairly confident that we can look at the program and figure out finance products that work for some of the borrowers and create jobs.
Your setup is a nonprofit.
Yes.
Yes, but I would say lending has always been a core part of what the capital fund does, and they're good at underwriting deals, and we'll be able to diligently monitor and service the loans to assure repayment.
That's something we have not been good at, so hope it works better.
Any other questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
All in favor of the motion say yes.
Yes.
All opposed say no.
No.
One no. Motion carries. WM 12/3-39 from administration. Approve the County of Muskegon Disadvantaged Business Program for Department of Transportation Financial Assistance Programs. Moved and seconded. Questions? See none, all in favor say yes.
Yes.
All opposed say no. Motion carries. Moving on to old business. Any old business for the board today? Any old business? Any new business? Any new business? Time for public comment. If there's anybody in the public who'd like to address the board on a new topic, please come forward. See none, entertain a motion to go into closed session for pending litigation.
So moved. Second.
Moving and seconded, roll call please.
Because I think they keep doing that.